exclusive to Hot.
Thursday morning, and welcome to Thursday's edition of The Hot Seat. I'm your host. My name is Peter Zulu, and on the show this morning, we are joined by Patriots for Economic Progress and Tonsi Alliance spokesperson. Mr. Sean Tembo joins us on The Hot Seat this morning. Mr. Tembo, good morning and welcome to The Hot Seat.
Good morning, Mr. Zulu. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Okay. And a very good morning to all the listeners and viewers out there.
All right, we're live on multiple platforms. We're live on Kwitu FM on 93.3 FM in Lusaka and surrounding areas. We're live on Kanela FM, that's in Lundazi in Eastern Province, on 97.7 FM and surrounding areas as well. We're live on GSTV countrywide, channel 912, and GoTV countrywide, channel 301. You can stream us live on the TuneIn app, the Radio Box, and Radio Garden, just search for Hot FM Zambia. Wherever you may be on this planet, you will be able to listen to The Hot Seat via those platforms. And live on our Facebook page as well. You can search for Hot FM Zambia, and you'll be able to follow proceedings of The Hot Seat with the PEP president joining us this morning. I'd like to start our conversation, first of all, with issues to do with the FIC report. We know that the trends report for 2024 is out. What are the key findings of the 2024 FIC trends report, and how do they impact Zambia's economic landscape?
Well, the FIC report, in summary, Mr. Zoro, it shows the effect and the extent to which there is lack of accountability in this country. And what is alarming is that the extent of pilferage, waste of public resources, and outright theft are increasing year on year. When you look at the figures of illicit financial frauds, you realize that the figures are just too high. You're talking about $3.5 million for an economy whose GDP is around $9.8 billion. That's significant. That's more than 10% in illicit financial frauds. And a number of questions arise from that report. When you talk about illicit financial frauds, for instance, this is money that illegally flows out of the country. And in Kwacha terms, $3.5 billion is something that is close to 70 billion Kwacha. You know, the question is, who is involved? Because an average Zambian, in terms of the private sector, is unlikely to have access to such significant amounts of money. So the only people or the only institution in this country that would have access to billions of kwacha is the government. There's no private entity that can have access to that amount of money. And the question is, why are these illicit financial frauds growing year on year? When the current president was in opposition, whenever the FIC report comes out, he was very quick to hold a press briefing and outline the extent of lack of accountability by the previous government. And now he's in office. And these things have doubled, more than doubled, and they keep increasing year on year. And yet he's quiet about it. He needs to address the nation and tell us what is happening to the money that is being illegally externalized from this country and what his government is doing about it. We cannot afford to keep listening to his silence on this matter. He needs to speak out. He needs to assure the nation. You understand? Otherwise, as far as we are concerned, he's showing total lack of leadership. Because this is the resources of the nation. Also, when you read that report further, it goes on to state that the majority of those illicit financial frauds are attributed to illegal mining. Okay?
Yes, significant portion of it.
Yes. Specifically, precious minerals such as gold, sugarite, and related minerals. You understand? And now, if we narrow down to gold, for instance, we have a situation whereby before the Patriotic Front government left office, gold was discovered at Kasanseri, and there was some illegal mining going there, and efforts were made by the then government to create what was known as the Zambia Gold Company to start mining that gold at Kasanseri. When the UPND government came, that project was shelved. It was put aside. And what the UPND did is they deployed Zambia National Service officers to guard that Kasanseri mine. Up to now, that mine has not been commercialized. Okay? And about 2 years ago, there were reports of some ZNS officers being involved in illegal mining at that particular Kanseseri mine. You fast forward to the current day, we saw what happened in Mfumbwe. People were kicked out, the so-called small-scale illegal miners were kicked out. They deployed police officers to guard the place. And not so long ago, I think about 2 days ago, the UPND Northwestern Province chairman came out and addressed the press and said, police officers are engaged in illegal mining at that Mfumbwe gold mine. So, this lack of accountability of public resources, whereby instead of the government putting in place the necessary measures to allow commercialization of these public activities, public resources, so that each Zambian benefits, they close everything out from the public and deploy security and defense wings, and yet it appears that illegal mining continues to take place, despite the so-called protection of defense and security wings. The question is, why should this be tolerated? And who is benefiting from that illegal mining, which is done with the protection of the so-called defense and security wings? Who is benefiting? Those are the questions which the Zambian people must ask their government.
I want to find out from you, Mr. Tembo, because we get these reports, every year, and they're detailed. Even if the report the one we get as a public,
Indeed.
Obviously names are protected, and we're just given scenarios of what might have happened.
Yeah.
But how can we leverage the report's insights to strengthen our anti-money laundering and counter-terrorism financing frameworks?
How
can we leverage from the report to strengthen our anti-money laundering and counter-terrorism financing frameworks?
Well, what is needed? FIC would have done its job. What is needed is for law enforcement agencies to basically do their job, to do the necessary investigations and do the necessary arrests. The question that we should be asking is, to what extent has law enforcement acted on previous reports? To what extent has law enforcement acted on the 2021 FIC report, 2022 FIC report, 2023 FIC report, before we talk about 2024? And if you do that investigation, you'll find that there's very little action. There's no appetite to investigate those cases of criminality and to prosecute the offenders. And the reason is simple. To a large extent, law enforcement know who is involved, and they know that they can't touch the people involved in those illicit activities. They know. You understand? So the only time that those individuals would be investigated is when there's change of government. That's the only time that those people can be investigated. And you might ask a question, Mr. Zolo, to say, why is FIC very objective in reporting these scenarios? Why are they more objective than institutions such as the Auditor General's Office and the like? The reason is simple. The FIC framework is an international framework, and FIC is required to operate independently and without interference. Otherwise, if the government interfered with the Financial Intelligence Center, Zambia would be blacklisted. You'd be divorced from payment systems such as SWIFT and the like. You'd be disconnected from the international financial system. So the government is afraid of that. And that is the only reason why FIC is able to operate independently and be able to do its job. On the other hand, the government can easily interfere with the work of the Auditor General. And that is the reason why most of the key findings that are in FIC are not reflected in the Auditor General's report. Because FIC is more independent than the Auditor General's report, the Auditor General's office. So that is the dilemma that we have. There is no genuine appetite to fight corruption because the senior people in government are the ones who are involved in those illicit activities. That's the connection, basically.
Okay. So based off that, what measures can be taken to mitigate the risks associated with corporate vehicles being used for illicit activities as highlighted in the report?
The solution to the challenges that are highlighted in the FIC report is just to change government and to put in place a government that will have a genuine appetite to fight corruption, that will have a genuine appetite to fight these illicit financial frauds. Mr. Zul, we had a public scandal, a gold scandal here not so long ago. at the airport there, involving millions of dollars. The question is, how many people were prosecuted from that gold scandal? And the answer is none, zero, nil. And the answer is why? It's because the people who are senior members of the government are the ones involved in these illicit activities. So they cannot honestly investigate themselves, and they cannot arrest themselves, and they cannot prosecute themselves. It's that simple. It's that simple. So the only way that we can fight the issues raised in the Financial Intelligence Center report is when we change government. And we put in place a government that will have genuine appetite to fight corruption, to fight illicit financial frauds.
How do the Zambian people now, trust? Let me give an example of you as an opposition leader to come and fight this corruption, because we've had multiple people sit in that presidential seat, and we've still gotten similar reports. So what would Mr. Sean Tembo do differently that will enable trust from the Zambian people that you will genuinely fight this corruption regardless of who is involved?
That's a very interesting question, Mr. Zolu. You know, it is also a very difficult question because, the Zambian people have been disappointed several times. They've been disappointed several times. And even asking them to trust someone, we are actually asking for too much, because they've been heartbroken too many times. And the hope is that, those heartbreaks do not translate into voter apathy, whereby people just give up their participation in the governance of their country. You understand? In terms of assurance that can be given to the Zambian people on the fact that should they put in a Tonse government in office, that Tonse government will genuinely fight corruption, I think it comes down to the caliber and the intentions of the leaders involved. You referred to me specifically.
Yes.
If I was president of this country, how would people be assured that I would genuinely, fight corruption? The answer is simple, Peter. It comes down to patriotism. That is the starting point. For me as an individual, as Sean Tembo, I love this country. I love Zambia as my motherland very, very much. And, emanating from that love I have for my country, I would want to see Zambia flourish. And it hurts me when I travel in the diaspora and I find countries which only have a fraction of the resources that we have here, doing far much better than ourselves. It hurts my conscience and my feelings when I see Zambian teachers having to go and seek employment in countries like Namibia, which are more than 90% desert. And yet we have all the resources here. Why can't our economy be strong enough to attract people from other countries to come and seek employment in Zambia? And also where we're coming from, Mr. Zulu, Zambia used to be a beacon of economic prosperity under the leadership of KK about, in the 70s. It used to be a beacon of economic prosperity. We used to assemble vehicles here. We had booming industries here in almost all sectors. Almost each town in Zambia had a manufacturing activity taking place. So we were a source of envy by our neighbors. And then you fast forward, about 50 years along the line, we have dwindled. Even countries that were far behind us, to ensure that Zambia succeeds. And fighting corruption is one of the primary things that need to be done to be able to allow Zambia to make economic progress. You cannot make economic progress if you have rampant corruption. So it is that love I have for this country that will give the assurance to the people to say, should Mr. Sean Tembo be given the opportunity to run the affairs of this country, he's going to ensure that he helps Zambia and the Zambian people to prosper. Because I love this country. I want Zambia to succeed. I want the Zambian people to succeed. And I find it very shameful that the majority of our people should be wallowing in poverty despite the resources that we have. When you talk about resources, Mr. Zoro, you know that even just having fertile land, just land to be able to cultivate is a big resource. When you go to our neighbor here, eastern neighbor, Malawi. Malawi is a small country. It is the size of, almost the size of Northwestern Province. And despite it being small, about a third of it is water, like Malawi. Okay? A third of it is water. And then another third is mountains. So the portion of land in Malawi which exists for farming is just a small fraction, maybe half of Lusaka province. And yet, Malawi earns its forex from farming. They are the biggest sugarcane farmers in the region, the biggest tobacco farmers in the region, far bigger than Zambia. You understand? These are people who have very limited resource. And when we say resource, we are not even talking about minerals, just the land to cultivate. But they're doing far better than us. Us, we've got vast land. But we are not able to do proper farming where we can leverage on farming to earn forex. We rely on minerals. We have all the minerals. We have copper, we have cobalt, we have gold. But instead of commercializing that and using those resources to benefit the Zambian people, all that is wasted. The president decides to send ZNS to go and guard Kasaseri mine instead of commercializing it. And yet, when the FIC report comes, it tells us about billions of dollars of illegal mining, in terms of illicit financial flows. You understand? So you can clearly see the connection there. So there's a lot of wastefulness, and the reason, in my view, for that wastefulness is because of a lack of genuine love for this country, a lack of patriotism. So you need a leader who genuinely loves this country and the Zambian people. Once you have that, then you have a good starting point.
I want to pick your brain on something, Mr. Tembo. The Zambian government has requested the Minister of Finance and National Planning to request a 12-month extension of the IMF Extended Credit Facility support arrangement. What are your thoughts on this?
The bottom line, Peter, is that the current government is engaging in too much borrowing. And in as much as I do not necessarily disagree with the concept of borrowing, borrowing should only be used for development purposes. Okay? Mm-hmm. Not for recurrent expenditure. When you talk about expenditure, there are basically two types. There is development expenditure, mm-hmm. whereby you are building roads, you are building bridges, you are building hospitals, and then there's recurrent expenditure, whereby you are paying salaries and buying plane tickets to go for meetings in Europe and the like. So my strong view is that a country should only borrow for development expenditure purposes, the way the PF government largely borrowed for. The PF also borrowed, but when the PF borrowed, they built roads. When the PF borrowed, they built airports. When the PF borrowed, they built universities and hospitals. That is okay type of borrowing, because you are investing in the nation. Okay. Now, under the UPND government, foreign debt has increased from 11.6 billion at the time they took over to almost 16 billion now. That is approximately $4.5 billion in borrowing in 4 years. That's a huge amount. And the question is, what did they spend that money on? Maybe next time you have a UPND minister on this program, ask them to say, you have borrowed this much in Forex. What have you spent this money on? You can't point at anything they've spent that money on. They are saying that they've hired teachers. That is borrowing to consume. It is not borrowing to invest. You get the point? Mm. And when you talk about domestic debt has equally significantly gone up from about 92 billion kwacha at the time that the PF left office. Right now, domestic debt is about 280 billion kwacha. When you talk about domestic debt, that is your treasury bills and your government bonds. That's a huge borrowing. That's like 3 times. You understand? Over a period of 4 years. Now, the question, again, which arises is, what did you do with this money? What did you build with this money? Personally, I don't have a problem with national borrowing, provided that money is used for investment purposes and not consumption. It is the same thing, Mr. Zolo, with the situation at household level. You understand? There are all these loan companies. And you've heard of people who found themselves deep in debt. And the main problem there is because they borrowed to consume. They went and borrowed so that they can buy a bigger TV for them to watch. They went and borrowed so that the madam can buy better wigs at the salon. You understand? Those who borrowed to start a business, to start a hardware, and they borrowed to buy stock in that shop, they are not suffering from the borrowing. They are benefiting from the borrowing. So you can borrow. There's nothing wrong with that, provided you borrow for investment purposes, which is something that is lacking under the UPND administration.
I want to find out from you. I want to remind you the principle at which we got into this IMF program. Remember that we were told that we needed to get on an IMF program to restructure our debts because our creditors did not trust us to handle the negotiations without the eyeful watch of the IMF. And then now we're talking about an extension here. Don't you think we've already done enough as far as debt restructuring for us to jump on an extended facility?
So there is no debt restructuring, or let me rephrase that. There is no sound debt restructuring that took place. Okay, because when you talk about debt restructuring, Mr. Zoro, you are talking about you being in a situation whereby you have too much debt and you cannot sustain those repayments, and therefore you want to restructure or change the terms of that debt. And the terms of a debt can be many and several. It can be the tenure of that debt, the period in which you are supposed to pay back. It can be the interest rate that is being charged on the debt. It can be the number of installments or the size of installments. So when you look at our debt and the so-called restructuring program, which President Hakainde Hichilema celebrated about 2 years ago to say he has completed, the question is, what was achieved? Up to now, that debt restructuring agreement is still a top secret document. You understand? If there was genuine debt restructuring which benefited the country, then why not share the debt restructuring agreement so that we can all read it? Why should it be kept as a top secret document? Because in my view, that debt restructuring that took place actually favored the creditors instead of favoring the nation. You understand? That is my take on the debt restructuring. So it was detrimental to the welfare of Zambia as a country instead of beneficial, because there was no debt cancellation that emanated from that debt restructuring. If you are doing debt restructuring, especially for bilateral debt is where that is debt where you owe another sovereign nation. Yeah, you should be able to achieve some debt cancellation, because if you owe a country like China, all you need to do is sit down with China. China is a rich country; they've got a lot of money, and explain to them, look, we are not able to pay this debt. Can you cancel some of it so that you leave some of it? They will do it. If you talk to them nicely, they will do it, because it is bilateral debt. And every country, each one of these, big, strong countries like the US, China, the EU, they always want to have good relations with the developing countries. So if you talk to them nicely, they'll cancel some of the debt. The question is, how much debt cancellation did President Hakainde Hichilema achieve as part of that debt restructuring? And the amount is zero. It is zero. So there was nothing achieved in that debt restructuring which benefited Zambia as a nation. Nothing whatsoever.
Even with the deferment of the debt, but that has been agreed so far, where instead of some bonds that were going to mature now, the dates have been pushed 10 years from today, and that's when they have to be paid. Wasn't that a win? Didn't that provide some sort of fiscal space for us to start spending again?
The thing about debt, Mr. Zoro, both at national level and at personal level, you need to pay it. Okay? You need to pay it. Yeah, as simple as all that. When you defer debt, you end up borrowing, you end up spending significantly more on interest. You understand? The longer the tenure of the debt, especially for commercial debt, like those Eurobonds, because that is private debt. Yeah, there you need to pay. You understand? So the longer you defer it, the more you find yourself paying on that debt. Okay? The longer you find yourself paying on that debt. That's why when I want to give financial advice to people, let's say they want they want a house, so to speak. It's a young couple, recently married, they are both professionals, they want a house. under current interest rates, it's almost not feasible for you to get a mortgage, which you are going to pay over 15, 20 years, because you end up paying 5 times. Okay? You end up paying 5 times. You're better off borrowing, a personal loan over a period of 2 years. If you can do it over a year, that's good, but 2 years should be reasonable. You get 2 years personal loan, your wife gets personal loan, you go and do your house, at least you do the skeleton, and then you start doing the finishes inside slowly with your salaries. You understand? It will be more cheaper that way. Because if you go and get a mortgage under current interest rates over 20 years, you end up paying, 5, 7 times more than you actually got. So that deferment that was achieved as part of debt restructuring by the president benefits the lender, because they will collect more interest over a longer period of time. What we should have done as a nation is to simply service that debt, make those installments, and we have the resources. If the Kasenseri mine was actually commercialized and the operation, instead of taking ZNS to go and guard it, then the question is, how much money could we have generated? My take is we would have generated enough money by selling gold from Kasenseri mine to be able to actually service the installments that were due. That's what I mean.
Mr. Tembo, there's another issue here that has been debated for the past few weeks. Since we're talking about deferments, now let's go to deferment of bills in Parliament. Well, Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources, Sylvia Masero, yesterday deferred the controversial Bill number 13 in order to allow more consultations on this bill. What's your take on this?
Well, to start with, Mr. Zulu, there's a large number of bills which are taken to Parliament, which are subsequently rejected by the people. Okay, and from my standpoint, that is a sign of the lack of connection between the president and the people he governs. He seems to have lost touch of the feelings and expectations of the people that he governs. Because when you look at the process of taking a bill to Parliament, that bill has to be tabled in cabinet first. Okay? It has to be tabled in cabinet, it has to be debated in cabinet, and the president chairs cabinet meetings. So it has to be approved by cabinet, and the president has to approve the bill. Okay? Now, when that process has been done, and the bill, whether it's Bill 7 or Bill 13, is subsequently taken to Parliament, and then it is rejected by the people, it shows that there is a disconnect between the government and the people that they are governing. The government doesn't fully understand and appreciate the expectations and aspirations of the people that they govern. Okay. And that is a very serious verdict, because it simply shows that the government is incapable of improving the lives of the people. For you to be able, as a government, to improve the lives of the people, you must have some touch, you must be connected to the expectations and aspirations of the people. If you've lost that touch, if you are divorced from the people you are governing, then how can you improve their lives? You can't, because you don't know what the people want, what the people expect. You are divorced from the people. And that is exactly what the situation is on the ground right now. We have a government that is totally divorced from the people that they govern.
Mr. Tembo, this bill, when it was proposed, its intention was to clean up whatever is happening as far as land is concerned, title deeds. People, you have one piece of land, 3 people have a deed to the same piece of land. How would you suggest we sort this out, this mess at the Ministry of Lands, and what goes on with land governance in the country?
The basis of that mess, Mr. Zoro, is corruption. Okay? There is a lot of corruption taking place at the Ministry of Lands. And there is a lack of appetite by the government to fight that corruption. And the reason is simple. You have a government which has appointed, people not on merit, but on patronage. So when you go to any government office, you find that the senior people there are people that are related to government officials through patronage, either because of belonging to the same UPND party, or as relatives, or as children of friends. You understand? So when you employ people on that basis, you put them in positions, well and good. But when they do something wrong, you fail to take action against those people. You fail, because how are you going to fire your best friend's son? Then how is the relationship going to be between you and your best friend? It will be difficult. If you put someone who is a party member and someone who you believe helped you get into power as a cadre, you put them in a position and they do something wrong, how are you going to prosecute them? You can't, because you feel that this person did you a favor, so you are returning a favor to them by employing them in that position. That is why, Mr. Zulu, it is very important for any government, if it wants to perform to the expectations of the people, to hire people on merit, on the basis of merit, and not patronage. Because if you hire someone on the basis of merit and that person engages in corruption, they will first be fired and then prosecuted, because you don't owe that person anything. You understand? You don't owe them anything. Yeah. So that is the challenge that we have under the UPND government. So what you are seeing at the Ministry of Lands, or what you are seeing at Ministry of Health under ZAMSA, is just a tip of the iceberg. That problem exists in almost each and every government department, only that it has not yet come to the public attention with regard to some departments. We've only seen those issues at Ministry of Lands and at ZAMSA. But it's just a matter of time. They will soon come to the surface in all these other key government departments, including the police itself. Okay. So my take is that anyone who wants to improve the welfare of the Zambian people has to run a government that operates on the basis of competence and not on the basis of patronage. Because patronage can never develop a nation. It can never develop a nation. Never develop a nation. The moment you hire people on the basis of patronage, as a nation, just know that you are not going anywhere. Even you as a president.
How are you going to stay away from that, Mr. Tembo? For you as PEP, for you as the Tonse Alliance? Because obviously there's been this, what I'll call a phenomenon in politics now, where somebody just has to align himself to a politician, and before you know it, they have this big job in government, or they have this, they're doing big business with government, or, like you've put it, a relative or somebody is employed in the system. How are you going to stay away from it?
If I was elected president of this country, Mr. Zoro, I would ensure that each and every person who would have contributed to my being elected into office is paid back handsomely. But the formula of paying back to people who have contributed to you being elected into office is only one formula. And that is by ensuring that you improve the economy, and that those people, wherever they are and whatever they are doing, whenever they do what they are doing, they'll be able to reap good rewards for what they are doing.
Is that the conversation you're having with them? Honestly?
Yes.
Honest conversation with your supporters, Mr. Tembo?
Because Mr. Zulu, there will be thousands of people who vote, millions actually, of people who vote for a president. Okay. And there will be thousands of people who actively participate in a campaign. And if you're going to get those people and put them into positions, most of which they don't qualify for, it means that you are undermining the capability of your government to improve the welfare of the other millions that voted. Okay. But if you put people in positions who are competent and suitable for the job, whether they voted for you, whether they previously belonged to another political party, whether they voted for another political party, but provided they are competent for the job, you hire them and you put them in positions. The economy itself will begin to improve, because you have competent people in decision-making positions. And as the economy improves, jobs will be created. And as jobs begin to be created, the millions of people who voted for you will be able to access jobs. Those who do businesses, their businesses will begin to be profitable and they'll begin to send their children to school. So you are paying them back by improving the economy. That is the most sure way of paying back the people that support you, by improving the economy. Because the trickle-down effect of a well-performing economy affects everybody. It affects everybody. It reaches everybody. If you want to make a shortcut and try to pay the people who supported you by giving them jobs for which they are not qualified for, first of all, you only be able to employ so many people. You can't employ everybody. So you only be able to employ so many people. But also, the fact that you employ people who are not suitable and qualified for a particular job, who will be making bad decisions, means that you will be dragging the economy down, thereby punishing the people who supported you. You understand? So that is the connection that most of our leaders, most of our presidents don't understand, especially the current administration. To them, they believe if you go to cabinet office or you go to these ministries and you check the PSs, you find that it is people who were UPND cadres. Their idea of rewarding them is give them PEMSEC jobs. Give them PEMSEC jobs. The question is, do those people have the requisite qualifications? Do they have the right mindset? That is why you see a lot of arrogance in government, the way they relate to people.
If they were qualified, would you be okay with such appointments, Mr. Tembo?
If they were qualified, I would not prioritize them to be employed in those positions. I would give selected few individuals those positions, and not everybody who was affiliated to the party. Because you need diversity. Running an organization is also about the mindset. You understand? It's about the mindset. So if you bring people who were in the Chipani, people who you were doing rallies with, people you were fighting battles with, there's that mentality of entitlement that me, I'm entitled to be in this position as PS because I fought a lot of battles with President Hakainde Hichilema. So my being here should not be determined by my performance. No, I already did my job by supporting President Hakainde Hichilema and fighting running battles with him when he was in opposition. Therefore, I'm entitled to be here. So that entitlement mentality is not consistent with the good performance. Anyone who has a mentality of entitlement in their position will not perform to the expectations of the organization. They will not, because they will not feel compelled. But if you get an independent person who is qualified for the job, who is not affiliated in any way to the establishment, they will be very scared every minute for their job. And they will go out of their way to make sure they do their job properly so that they can retain it. When time comes to renew their contract, they will be keeping their fingers crossed and reviewing their own performance and seeing, did I do everything expected of me? Will my contract be renewed? That is what keeps people on their toes. That is what makes people to perform. That is what makes organizations to move forward. That is what can make a country to move forward. If you have a person in a position who is not worried about whether their contract will be renewed or not, they feel entitled. They feel, no, me, I fought running battles with President HH, so I cannot go anywhere. I'm here to stay. They will be coming to the office at 9 and leaving at 14 hours. When they go for lunch, they go for good. Because they feel entitled.
How do the Zambian people hold you to account, Mr. Tembo, to your word, if given the chance to govern, that you won't go the same route?
The starting point, Mr. Zuru, is that you need to, as a leader, as a president of this country, you need to love this country. I always give you the example of KK. KK might have made a number of mistakes in his governance of this country, but there's something that was unique about KK. He loved Zambia. He loved this nation. He wanted Zambia to prosper. That is why even in 1990, when there were those food riots, and the church approached him to say, Mr. President, we need to revoke Article 4 of the Constitution and go back to multipartyism. Otherwise there will be chaos in the streets. Because he loved this country, he didn't want Zambia to burn down. He acceded to that request and reintroduced multipartyism. If KK didn't love this country, he would have simply deployed the army and more police to quell the riots and kill as many people as necessary. You understand? But he loved this country. And it is because of that love that KK had for this country that made him to develop this country the way he did. what has been lacking in a number of previous presidents is that deep love for Zambia and the Zambian people. You understand? And that is something that I myself, Sean Tembo, that is something unique that I bring to the table. Other than the qualifications and other things, other people can have the qualifications. But in terms of love for this country, I love this country dearly, and I want this country and these people to succeed. You understand? So that is something that is unique, which I bring to the table as Sean Tembo.
Let's talk about mining or illegal mining. We have that going on in our country quite a lot. Yesterday, police arrested 79 people in Chingola on the Copperbelt province following riots in which one person actually died. There's this problem that has been brewing on the Copperbelt province to do with illegal mining. And yesterday, when the illegal miners were stopped from proceeding to mine where they usually mine, they went on and rioted. What's your plan for these young people on the Copperbelt, or these young people that are in these mining towns that are surviving off illegal mining on a day-to-day basis? What's your plan for them?
Yeah. First of all, you must understand the situation on the ground, especially with regard to the so-called illegal mining, which is supposed to be taking place in the Copperbelt. I wouldn't particularly refer to that as illegal mining per se, because what is essentially happening in most of those areas is, the mining technology of previous years, when we started mining in Zambia in the 1930s and 1920s, was not very good. So most of the copper was not separated from the West. You understand? So you fast forward to the current day, you have, what do they refer those mountains? There's a word they use for them. Those mountains actually have a significant copper content in them.
The dam sites, actually.
The dam sites.
Yes.
You understand? They have a significant copper content in them. And what the youth in the Copperbelt have been doing is to get that and further process it to get the copper which is there. Now, there has been issues regarding the ownership of those, I don't think dam sites is the correct word. I'll refer to them as the mountains. There has been disputes about the ownership of that. And the government took the side of the current mining owners, I think in Mufulira. There was that issue in Mufulira. My view, Mr. Zuru, is that the current owners of the mines are not the owners of those copper heaps, which exist in most of the towns, because they came recently. Like Mopani. When did Mopani come to Zambia? Those heaps accumulated over years, starting from the 1930s, 1920s, up to around, not up to about the 1990s, when technology of copper processing improved and they are able to extract most of the copper now. You understand? So that should belong to the government, in my view. And now, coming to the issue of the youth who want to extract some copper from those heaps of copper ore waste, so to speak. If most of those youths are unemployed and they want to make a living, the question is, does government have a plan of what to do with those heaps? You understand? And my view is that both the current government and the previous government did not have an actual plan of what to do with those heaps of copper ore waste, so to speak. You understand? So if there is no immediate plan and there are people who want to utilize that, then the question is, why not give it to them in a properly structured manner? You understand? Why not give it to them? Because they want to earn a living from that. And you as a government, you don't have immediate plans to utilize that. That doesn't belong to the current owners of the mines, because it accumulated over the past decades, way before companies like KCM or Mopani came. You understand? So, in my view, government, instead of running battles with those youths, they need to put in place measures to ensure that those youths are able to benefit from those dams. And what kind of measures are those? Allow those youths to either form cooperatives or incorporate companies as groups of maybe 2020, and take mining safety engineers there, guide those youths on how they can be able to exploit that those remnants of the extraction of copper ore in a safe manner, and guide them on how they can operate in an amicable manner as groupings without having to fight each other, and then allow them to access the markets to be able to sell what they extract in an orderly manner, and then tax them. Impose a tax once they sell, get a tax as government. That will allow the youth to benefit from their hard work, and allow you as a government to benefit from the hard work of the youth. So it will be a win-win scenario, because it's like you're keeping people hungry there. There are people who are hungry who haven't eaten for a week or more on this side of the chair, and then this side there's a table and there's food, and that food is smelling nicely. And there are police standing in the middle saying, whoever moves to the other side to eat that food, we are going to beat you up. Every now and then when the police look the other side, one of the youths jumps to the table, tries to eat, and they cramp them, there's a crash. How long are you going to sustain that? And is it necessary? My answer to that is no, it's not necessary. Those youths are hungry. They are not trying to steal from someone. They are trying to work hard and exploit a national resource. Why fight them? Why not facilitate them? Why not give them licenses? Why not teach them how to exploit that in a safe manner, so that we don't see the accidents that we've been witnessing, where that thing collapses and it buries, a lot of people? Why not facilitate them? You understand? If I was president of this country, that is what I was going to do. And since you are only going to allow a select number of youths, you can't accommodate everybody there, isn't it?
So how do you handle that situation then?
That situation?
Yeah,
that is where the tax comes in. So you extract your copper, and when you sell your copper, us as government, we come in and tax you. When we get that tax, we go and spend it on public services, so that the other youths who are not there to mine and benefit are also benefiting indirect. When they go to the hospital, they find medication. When they send their children to school, there are teachers there, there's food there, there are books there. So you tax them. It's a simple solution, and it's a win-win situation, and it will reduce the conflict. You can't, Mr. Zulu, you can't, as a government, always be in conflict with the citizens that you are governing. You can't, with no solution in sight. You're always fighting your citizens, always beating them up. You can't. That is not a way to properly govern the people that gave you the power. You need to find innovative ways to ensure there is harmony, in the country, to ensure that people benefit from the resources of the nation, and that the other citizens also benefit through taxation of those that are lucky to be granted the licenses. Simple.
Mr. Tembo, before we open the phone lines, we'll be opening up the phone lines in a few minutes. For those of you that would like to be part of this conversation, do keep your questions brief and make sure it's one question. You can call us on 0974-870-877. We'll be opening up the phone lines very, very, very soon. For those of you watching us live on Facebook, you can ask your questions on Facebook. We'll be able to read some of the questions that you put on that platform. I want us to get to the Tonsi Alliance. The country lost Sixth Republican President, Dr. Edgar Chagwa Lungu, who was the leader of the Tonsi Alliance. You and I had a conversation here in the studio where you made the announcement that this is the preferred candidate for the Tonsi Alliance in 2026, and gave that as one of the reasons why you decided to sever ties with UKA at that time, because there was no clear intention of picking a leader at that time. The last few weeks we've seen what I would term as wrangles, because we've had statements from this particular individual and that other particular individual.
They're not really wrangles. Just some disagreements, so to speak.
You might term them that. What are they?
What we've had in the Tonsi Alliance is just some differences of opinion regarding interpretation of some clauses of the Constitution of the Alliance. Yes. And those differences, basically, we are taking measures to ensure that we sit around the round table and that we resolve those differences. There are some of the members of the Tonse Alliance who believe that the Constitution allows um, Honorable Given Rovinda to be the acting chairman, even when Professor Dan Pole, who is the vice chairman, is within jurisdiction. And there are some members who believe that the Tonse Alliance Constitution is very clear that in the absence of a chairman, the vice chairman is the one who acts as chairman, and that in the absence of both the chairman and the vice, then the Council of Leaders elects a person to chair their meeting for that particular meeting. You understand? So there's that difference of opinion, and of course it has been there for a while, and we've been deliberating on it internally. What brought it to the public domain is that there was a discussion or a submission that was made some time back, about 2 or 3 weeks ago, by the Zambia Must Prosper president, Mr. KBF. It was an internal submission within the leaders' WhatsApp group as we were discussing the matter. And someone unfortunately picked that discussion, or rather submission, by President KBF and leaked it to the media. So it came out as a screaming headline in one of the newspapers, I believe it's Daily Liberation. And then subsequent to that, some of the members then started commenting publicly on the issue and issuing statements. But in my capacity as the chairman for the disciplinary committee, I issued a directive to all the members to say, you should not comment on this matter publicly. It's unfortunate it has gone to the public and it's in the public domain, but there should be no further statements regarding this matter as we work towards resolving it.
Mr. Tembo, what's the succession plan here in the Tonse Alliance? Because you left UCA because there was no direction as to who is going to be on the ballot in 2026. And now that the preferred candidate is no more, what's the roadmap like here now? Well, where's Tonse Alliance going? Who's the next chairperson, or who's the next person do we expect to see on the Tonse Alliance ballot next year?
There are two issues here, Mr. Zolo. There's the issue of chairmanship of the Tonse Alliance, and then there's the issue of the Tonse Alliance presidential candidate. Those are separate issues. I'll answer each of them separately. The Tonse Alliance Constitution provided that the late 60th Republican President, Dr. ECL, would be the chairman and also the 2026 candidate of the Alliance. In Article 3 of the Constitution, it further guides that if President Edgar Lungu was not available as a candidate of the Tonse Alliance for 2026, then the power was given to him to appoint a person who would be the Tonse Alliance candidate for 2026.
As the chairman?
Yes, as the chairman.
Okay.
Yes. So the Constitution was very clear in that regard. So what that means now that we lost our chairman is essentially that if at all the chairman left a will regarding his preference of a presidential candidate, then that is the person that will be adopted and embraced by the Alliance, because the Constitution gave ECL the power to appoint someone who would be the candidate. Okay, so the issue of the candidature, that's the direction. But if there was no will, we haven't yet engaged the Lungu family because we haven't buried our chairman yet. But once we bury, or at an appropriate time, we are going to approach the Lungu family and find out if at all there was a will. If there was no will, The Tonse Alliance Constitution did not provide a mechanism of identifying a presidential candidate for 2026. So what that means is that us as Tonse Alliance would then have to sit down and agree on a mechanism for selecting a 2026 presidential candidate to stand on the alliance ticket. You understand? Because it's not provided in the constitution. Coming to the issue of chairman, which, like I indicated, is a separate issue.
Yeah, I was going to get to that here.
The Tonse chairman is not necessarily going to be the Tonse Alliance candidate.
Okay.
No, it's not. So the
just quick clarification there as you're explaining. If the late Tonse chairperson, the late President Dr. Gachagua Lungu, if he left a will behind to say, I want this candidate to be on the ticket, and then you decide, you elect, you have a new chairman in place, and they have a different wish from what the previous chairman had in choice of candidates. What happens in that situation?
The wish of the new chairman will not matter.
But explain to us what your constitution
not necessarily.
says.
Actually, just to clarify that, Mr. Zoro, the vice chairman, Professor Danpure, has not expressed any wish to be the chairman of the Tonse Alliance.
Okay.
He is happy to be the vice chairman. Okay? He is happy to be the vice chairman. And there has been some insinuations, going around by our detractors, trying to portray a situation as if Tonse is divided and that the non-PF people are against the PF people. You understand? There have been those insinuations. And that we want the chairmanship of Tonse to go to the non-PF people. That is not the correct position, actually. Because in terms of selecting the chairman, remember that PF is the biggest political party in the Tonse Alliance. Okay? PF is the biggest political party in the Tonse Alliance. And my view is that, my personal view, not the official position of Tonse.
Of the alliance. Okay.
Yes. My personal view is that when we select a chairman for Tonse, that chairman will come from the Patriotic Front. Okay? Because they are the biggest member of the Tonse Alliance. So it would only be appropriate for that chairman to come from the Patriotic Front. But I do not subscribe to people trying to hijack the process and impose themselves as chairman. Because for current purposes, the Constitution is very clear. In the absence of the chairman, the vice chairman acts until such a time that we will select a substantive chairman. If I was given a preference among the PF leaders in terms of who I would wish the Tonse Alliance, the new Tonse Alliance chairman.
And that's your personal view, by the way, just to underline that.
Yes, that's my personal view. If I was given that preference, I think I would put my choice on Honorable Brian Mundubire. I think he's sober, and I think he can take us somewhere. You understand? That's my personal preference. In terms of the apparent disagreements which are in place now, the genesis of that is that I've explained this background a number of times. When our chairman left, when he was still alive, when he left the jurisdiction to go to South Africa to seek medical attention on the 19th of January 2025, he left the vice chairman as acting. That's Professor Danpule. Professor Danpule was the acting chairman because that's what the Constitution provides. He was not acting because ECL selected him or appointed him to act. No. In fact, the Constitution does not give the power to the chairman to appoint an acting. There is no such power given to the chairman. So even if ECL wanted to appoint anyone to be acting, he wouldn't have done that because the Constitution didn't give him that power. You understand? The acting chair is prescribed by the Constitution of the Tonse Alliance. So when ECL left the jurisdiction, he left Professor Dan Pole to act. Because the Constitution provided for that. And Professor Dan Pole did that. He was vice chairman and acting chairman of the alliance, and we held a number of meetings. I think 3 or 4 meetings. Okay. In those meetings, the other members of TONSE, including Honorable Given Rovinda, attended those meetings, chaired by the vice chairman, who was also acting chairman. And then sometime towards the end of February, Professor Dan Pole had to go to India for medical attention. Okay? He had to leave the jurisdiction. So we faced ourselves with a situation whereby both the chairman and the vice was not around. So the question then is, what does the Constitution provide? You know, Article 3, the same Article 3 of the Constitution, is very explicit. It says, when the chairman and the vice are both out of jurisdiction, the Council of Leaders shall meet and shall elect one among themselves to chair a particular meeting. Okay. So, assuming that there will be more than 2 people who are interested to chair a meeting, then you do an internal election. Yeah. But when we did meet, Honorable Given Rovinda expressed his desire to chair the meeting. There was no one else who had a desire to chair the meeting. Okay. So, Honorable Given Rovinda went through unopposed, so to speak. He chaired the meeting. And then we held, I think, about 2 or 3 other meetings, whereby, again, no one expressed interest to chair the meeting. So, again, Honorable Rovinda went through unopposed. Okay. The problem started when the vice chairman came back from India. Okay? When the vice chairman came back from India, first of all, he wasn't feeling very well. So he was indisposed for a while, I think a number of weeks. And then when he felt better, he convened a meeting of the TONSE Alliance because he had resumed his duties. When that meeting was convened, there was resistance by Honorable Given Rovinda and the people that supported him, because they claimed that he should remain the acting chairman. Okay. So when that resistance came about, we said, okay, what are your arguments? Why do you think he should remain the acting chairman? Because the Constitution is very clear. Okay. So they provided their submissions, their arguments, and we tried to deliberate on that matter internally, until, we came to the realization that it would actually benefit us to bring on board some of, some neutral people who can sit both the Honorable Rovinda and Professor Dan Pole together, and then hear the submissions from both parties, and then make a determination and move forward from there. So as we speak, that is where we are right now. Okay. So the insinuations that some of the people have been trying to peddle, that the non-PF members of the TONSE Alliance are fighting the PF and preventing the PF from chairing TONSE, those are wrong insinuations. Like I told you, Mr. Zoro, personally, I feel that the substantive chair of TONSE should come from the Patriotic Front. But that person has to be someone who is selected using due process of the alliance, not someone who comes and tries to do a coup and hijack and become chairman. That we are not going to tolerate.
Is that what Mr. Rovinda has been doing?
Well, I don't want to comment on a specific individual, but I'm just explaining to you.
Because he's the name that you've thrown in the hat as far as him being chairman and him resisting the vice chairman from taking over or from acting as chairperson of the TONSE Alliance.
All I can say, Mr. Zoro, is that we will not allow confusion in the TONSE Alliance. We will allow the Constitution to be respected, and that there is no conflict between the PF members of the alliance and the non-PF members of the alliance. There is no such conflict. The PF as an organization, as an institution, is fully embraced in the TONSE Alliance, and their position as the biggest member of the alliance is fully recognized. And there should be no individual within PF who should try to portray that there is a conflict between the non-PF members of Tonse and the PF members of Tonse. We just want the constitution to be properly complied with. I told you.
Because every time you're describing this individual, is like, and there's only one name and one man that's been interested from what you've explained to us.
I'm just making a submission about my position, my individual position, not the Tonse Alliance position, but my individual position as Sean Tembo.
Let's get the people involved. Call us now. It's 0974-870-877 or 0950-955-877. Remember, you'll be restricted to ask one question. Be quick and get to the question so that we get as many calls as we can. Can we wear the headphones now, Mr. Tembo?
You're listening to the Hot Seat on Hot FM 87.7. It's time for you to call now and get involved.
That's right. Give us a call. 0974-870-877. This is the Hot Seat. Good morning. Wa sepiso funsani funsano. Come on, Sepiso. 0974-870-877, 0950-955-877. Let's hear from you this morning. Hello, good morning. Takachabe bwana mwaka banji nwanda nzineno. Nalishebo. Okay, kamba nchina bashon Tembo mustudio.
Tauka mai mwaka banji kuchiruru. Tamvera mai
Come on, Elishebo. 0974-870-877 or 0950-955-877. We'd like to hear from you. Hello, good morning. Good, how are you doing? What's your name? Stephen, we have Mr. Tembo in studio.
Good morning, Mr. Stephen.
The composition of that alliance group is for me is a bit organic. Why? Because this is a group that actually devoted in 2020 with that state that you referred to. The Zambia state was devoted by that them. I said, no, it is a schedule of payment for me. I'm from your institution looking at the way you can handle the matter you yourself. So for having reflected that data and being able to handle that data at this particular time, what is important in the past 4 years, we need to be good on the current year. Maybe, so I don't know now who is going to be your president as Thursday Alliance. Who is going to be your president? Maybe you need to let me know, because as far as I'm concerned, it looks like it's a back and forth. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you very much. I would like you to respond to that.
Thank you, Mr. Zo. Yeah. Well, Mr. Sepiso, as well as Amaka Angela, essentially submitted and encouraged us to be united. I think that was a common theme there, unity. And, you know, allow me to just make a quick submission on the issue of opposition unity. Of course, as Tony said, we need 100% unity. But on the issue of opposition unity, we need opposition unity, but people need to be cognizant of the fact that 100% opposition unity is not possible. Okay, even in previous years when we changed government, whether it's 1991 or 2011 or 2021, 100% opposition unity was not achieved, because I've seen that our colleagues in the UPND are trying to drive a narrative that if the opposition is not fully united, meaning 100% united, then we don't stand a chance to win next year's election. I think that is a fallacy. What is needed is reasonable level of unity in the opposition, not necessarily 100%. 100% is not tenable. And from our standpoint, as we stand in Tonse, of course, we welcome new members. As we speak right now, we have pending applications for membership from about four or five political parties. And we are going to grow, but it is not our desire to try and bring everybody under one fold, because it is not practical. The reason it is not practical is because some of these political parties exist because they were sponsored to bring confusion, among the opposition by the ruling party. So if we spend all our energies trying to unite each and every politician, each and every political party, then you'll find that we will not get anywhere. We'll end up being frustrated and we'll lose focus of change of government next year. So we are going to pursue opposition unity, but we are not going to pursue it as an absolute concept, because it is not. We'll pursue it to the greatest possible extent that is practical. And then we'll go to the battle with the troops that would have assembled at that particular time.
All right. And Sepiso?
Yes, that is a response to Sepiso and Amaka Angela. Maybe Mr. Stephen raised the issue that PF is the one that defaulted on the debt that the current administration is trying to restructure. I think my point was clear at the beginning, Mr. Zulu, that there's nothing wrong with borrowing per se, provided you borrow for investment purposes. The PF borrowed, yes, but we can all see what the PF spent the money on. Even yourself here, where you are facing, when you look outside the window, you've seen the four lanes of the road. This wasn't there when you first started working at Hot FM, isn't it? So we can see, wherever I look, I see PF development. So they did something with their money. The question is, what has UPND done with the $4.5 billion that they have borrowed in external debt? What have they done with the more than 190 billion kwacha which they've borrowed from domestic debt? What can you point at? There's nothing to point at. So that's the difference, really. That's my response to Mr. Stephen.
All right, let's get more calls. It's 097470 877. Good morning. Morning to you. Please switch off your radio.
It's off now.
All right, what's your name?
My name is Mr. Go.
Mr. Ngobu.
Yes.
All right, Mr. Ngobu, we have Mr. Tembo in studio. Please go ahead and ask your question.
Okay, thank you. So, first and foremost, I think I would love to agree with some of the callers that called that we need unity in the opposition. And unity can be attained by avoiding certain things that, unfortunately, Mr. Tembo is doing. I think during the time they were in South Africa, we remember him having a press conference that was abruptly stopped by the Tonse Alliance members because it had no blessing. And this is exactly what he's trying to do now again, cleaning your dirty linen in public. Trust me, no political party can claim to exist without any internal wrangles. But how do they deal with them? They make sure they deal with them internally, including your home, Mr. Tembo. You don't go out and shout because you've disagreed with your wife. No, you deal with your wife inside, but you portray a different picture outside. And all we are asking is, we are behind you, but try to desist, be humble enough, and listen to leadership, and hold on, even if you don't agree with their decisions, try to deal with them inside, as opposed to always rushing to the media, rushing to Facebook. You are a very intelligent man, but however, because of your few rantings and the shenanigans that you've done, we take you for a comedian. And yet you gave us so much promise earlier on. So please, that is my advice to you. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you for your contribution. Let's pick up more calls. 0974-870-877 or 0950-955 or 955-877. Those lines will get you through to the hot seat this morning. Do give us a call. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Zulu. How are you?
Good. How are you doing? What's your name?
My name is Kelvin, calling within Lusaka.
All right, Kelvin, please go ahead with your question or contribution for Mr. Tembo. He's listening.
Mr. President, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Kelvin.
Thank you very much. First of all, I would like to commend you for coming together as opposition, and we really need you. We really need Tonse to still exist even after the demise of our former chairperson, Dr. Edgar Chagalungu. My take is on the audio of Mr. Chavinga and the silence from the government. Kindly comment on this one. Why is the government silent while the president was implicated in that audio? Is it confirmed that indeed Chavinga was sent by the government or what? What's your take on this one?
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. 0950-955-877 or 0974-870-877. I'd like to hear from you this morning. We have PEP President and Tonse Alliance spokesperson, Mr. Sean Tembo, joining us on the show this morning. If you have a question or contribution, please do call us up now. Good morning.
Francis Mumbempika East, Mwanamudi is calling from Lusaka. Good morning to the panelists here. Sean Tembo, how are you this morning?
Very well, sir. How are you?
No, we are fine, and we thank the Lord that we are there listening to you on the radio and we thank God for saying good. Quickly, according to my perspective on today's issue, first and foremost, I know how the tireless effort you are making as the spokesperson of Sean Tembo. We need a strong opposition like you are doing, putting checks and balances on the government of the day. And the only way President Hakainde Hichilema and his government will succeed is strong people like you, Sean Tembo, are able to tell the government where they're going wrong. Because sometimes to love the president, it is not only to tell him the things that he wants to hear. He needs to hear the things that people are crying for on the ground within the nation. That's how important Sean Tembo is. And to the government, don't see him as an enemy to you, but he's somebody who's trying to teach you or show you the wrong things that are being done. That's an advice I will not tell the president. Now, moving forward with the Tonse Alliance and whatever the opposition that we have today in the country, we need to come together. At the end of the day, we don't want a race where next year President Hakainde Hichilema goes to a race like a tortoise and the cheetah running. We want cheetah to cheetah. Whoever wins the election, that's the way you should do things today. So whether differences are there with the demise of President Lungu, we expect it. There will be differences in when those others will be coming up. So They'll come from a Tembo, they'll go to Walurinda, and the line, but Tembo's so Walurinda. That's the kind of confusion you should expect. But at the end of the day, be united, you should just be focused. Even when you're a driver, as I conclude, you're driving a vehicle. Don't listen to what the passenger is telling you. You know the rules of driving. You know that when you look behind when you're driving, what happens? You'll be involved in accident, concentrate all the time. You see them then the 10 basic rules of driving. So to what Tembo, I want to encourage you, Zambia, for Zambia to develop and for Zambia to move forward. We need a strong opposition. That's the only way the government are going to work. Instead of which, there'll be just lawlessness and anarchy that will be going on within a country. Sex and violence should be given all the time. Thank you very much. And you're doing a good job. Keep it up. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ramumbi. Please, Mr. Tembo.
Okay, yeah. I'll start with the gentleman who said we should not talk about the internal issues of the Tonse Alliance. And he is right to a large extent. But you need to understand that internal issues can only be kept from the public if they have not leaked to the public. You understand? Because being a political leader is about credibility. You need to be credible in the eyes of the public. So if something leaks out to the public and there's a headline about what President KBF said, and there are other news reports of what Mr. Kennedy Kamba said against KBF. There is a statement from President Peter Chanda attacking KBF and so on and so forth, and all these are in the public domain. Surely you don't expect me as spokesperson to come on a forum like this and deny that there are no disagreements in the Tonse Alliance. Then I'll lose credibility in the eyes of the public, because the public can see that there are some disagreements. So the best way to approach it is to admit that there are disagreements and explain away those disagreements and tell the people what we are doing to resolve those disagreements. You get the point? Then we as Tonse would be building credibility in the eyes of the public. So I don't agree with the gentleman who said that we should not have explained some of the disagreements which are there and the genesis of that and what we are doing to resolve them. I hold a different view. I believe that being truthful to the public helps to build confidence, and it helps to build the credibility of the Alliance as an organization that is suitable to take over the running of government come next year.
All right, and the other callers?
The other callers, on the issue of the audio by Mr. Chavinga, I think, first of all, regarding that audio, it's good that the Vice President confirmed in Parliament that it is a genuine audio, that it is not AI generated, because she said it was a discussion between two individuals. However, I think President Hakainde Hichilema needs to speak out on that audio because it implicated him. And when an individual is implicated, like you, Mr. Zuru, you're implicated, or I'm implicated, I need to be the one to go out there and dispel those accusations and say, I've got nothing to do with this. I didn't send Mr. Chavinga on any mission in South Africa. No one can make the denials on my behalf the way we see Mr. Hamasaka trying to speak on behalf of President Hakainde Hichilema, because the accusations are specifically directed to President Hakainde Hichilema. So my appeal to President Hakainde Hichilema is he needs to face the nation and explain to the nation if at all he had nothing to do with the allegations that were in that audio. That is the best way we can proceed. Yeah. Coming to the last caller, I think he was basically complimenting us and encouraging us to, be united and focused as we challenge the ruling party.
Give us a call, 0974-870-877, 0950-955-877. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you, my brother?
Good, how are you doing? What's your name?
Mr. Banda. How are you, President Tembo?
I'm very well, sir. How are you?
I'm doing fine, but I'm not fine. But let me tell you that the most correctly somebody will be United History Alliance. Please. Please long, okay?
Thank
Can
you.
there be any way of you allow us to do any misunderstanding that you can go to the convention and form one party? That's my question.
All right. 0974-870-877 is 0950-955-877. Good morning.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good. How are you doing? What's your name?
Thank you very much. President Tembo, how are you?
Very well, sir. How are you?
Good. This is Mr. Tinda. I'm calling Southern Province, Imo District, Karumba. Iya kusanguna. Muvela chitonga mushe ka?
Timvera chapatali patali. But tizamvera. Kambani.
Jamani ninga kambe chabe ba president. Muzambia tufuna strong opposition. Tufuna kuti imwe wakuru muri kusogoro kazi mbana sogoro uyo mpanda mire mufuna wa president bali wonse bemuri na wina mu mpanda chitabwanji au funa utankari akaona kuti mwasanka president kuti ndiye president wa party wa Tonsa Alliance bambiri bayamba kuchoka nichitika nichani. That's why sabetu mukonkani kumbuyo kasoba koyenda pakuti lero wapezekapa why simwimirira pamozi chimechirengesa kuti bantu bachoka mu mapati mu alliance memoriri ni chani ma confusing why last nifuna mutuuze president wa party Tonsa Alliance amefuna kuziba. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much. You can call us up on 0974-870-877 or 0950-955-877. We'd like to hear from you this morning. Do call us up now. It's 0974-870-877 or 0950-955-877. Call us up now. We'd like to hear your question or contribution. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Morning to you. What's your name?
I'm Winonge. Good morning, Mr. President.
Good morning, madam.
Yes, this is Nonge from Darling.
Please go ahead.
Yes, Ninonge. Tembo out behind you. Gameti funa chape mtonse alliance. Please, tutankale msokonezo. Kuita nani, ise wantu pa ground ilipo. Opposition in this event. Mamelu mwankalita mu alliance. Please, msokonezo suku na ye mkale president. Mamelu wakambila watu wakapo. President amenaza kuchika wa meneu. Ankali wa meneu zaenda naye. Ise president tavutika. Hii government abate kukisa. Kwa chizana kichinji. Lakini muuza abantu wamenu kamba pa radio. Disikilize kwa chabi. We are behind you. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Tembo. What's your reaction to those calls?
I think they are basically all encouraging us to, be united and focus on the mission at hand, which is to change government next year and bring into office a government that can actually deliver, to the expectations and aspirations of the Zambian people. The first gentleman asked a question to say, is it possible for the Tonsa Alliance to go to a convention and choose a leader from there? Well, a convention is not really provided for in the Tonsa Alliance constitution, but I guess if the proposal is tabled before the full council of leaders, then the members of the council of leaders can consider it, and if it garners the necessary support, then we can adopt it. So I must emphasize, Mr. Zuru, that as Tonsa Alliance, we are not a rigid mechanical organization. We are a flexible organization, and if a proposal that is progressive is tabled on the table, the members of the Council of Leaders are men and women of high standing, and they would duly consider it and would adopt any progressive proposal. So we are not a rigid organization at all.
Mr. Tembo, I'd like to thank you very much for coming through to the hot seat today.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right, there you have it. That's our show for this week. We're back with another exciting edition of the Hot Seat. On Tuesday with either my colleague Chishan Rambe or Hope Chishala. On Tuesday, do catch the show at the same time. And thank you for tuning in to Hot 87.7 right here in Lusaka and surrounding areas. Those that joined us on Kwitu FM 93.3 FM and Lusaka and surrounding